I've spent my entire life sitting at the piano memorizing sounds. I've always just wanted to know how to recall the ones I like the most when I'm playing and composing. But learning music theory didn't really lead to a method of creating in the way I hoped it would. But after watching this video, no matter your experience, you'll never approach writing music the same way again. It's going to be that simple and that deep. But you know what's amazing? How many people are going to miss this? We have everything stacked against us here. Diminishing attention spans, people who don't take us seriously, current events, people who are hypercritical just to make sure they still know everything, and the fact we're jumping into an ocean of fully hashed out research in YouTube format instead of presenting at a conference or publishing a paper. But I ask you, did you think this was an accident? The gags, the effects, the characters, the distractions. Because if you clicked on this video and are still watching, you've already crossed 2 of the 3 major thresholds. Welcome back for another round of megalo.
I know, and I have to babysit these guys, and one of them is like a robot. No, he is a robot. You know, like AI. No, he's not smart. I mean, he's probably like smart for an AI or whatever, but it doesn't understand basically anything I say. And don't even get me started on Brett. Hold on. Brett, what are you doing?
Filming an episode.
Okay, Buffy, I gotta go. Bye. Well, you guys didn't tell me you were starting. It's fine. Just keep going and we'll see what the problem is with your show.
This is the first song that I ever publicly wrote. It was a fight song for my wife's school. It has one glaring problem with it. See if you can figure out what it is without me telling you. But go ahead and put it in the comments. Added 9th in there. That's okay. But if you heard that wrong note, the tendency it wanted to be and how I resolved it from the last video, did you spot anything unusual about this tune? You were just listening to it. I would be impressed if you heard it. But if you were looking at the chart, then you probably noticed it doesn't really have a central key. I was given the lyrics to this, and I just let my ear lead the melody note by note, and I added chords that shared notes with the melody without really considering what key I was in. It's actually kind of genius if you were to pretend I knew what I was doing. It starts in F. You get a 2-5 in F on the first line with a smooth yet surprising step up to G. Actually, let's look at that tritone resolution. So from C dominant, resolving to G, believe it or not, works pretty good. Like almost to like a G5, 5-6-4. C7 to G6, why not? Who says C has to resolve to F, D, or D flat? Anyways, we continue in G, an unrelated key to F, and sort of stand on the dominant in the second line, really solidifying G major, but the D never resolves, and it turns over another sharp with a dominant of its own, and it resolves itself, and it's over. If I gave this to a group of musicians to play on the spot, they would probably say it didn't make sense or it was too random to remember, and they'd be right. But for listeners, it actually tracks pretty seamlessly. Remember from episode 1, our brains track what it thinks is important. And the truth is, most listeners don't consider modulations a significant event. With the exception of like a dramatic and directional transposition up a step, listeners don't accurately hear when the key changes take place, let alone being able to identify what key it went to. And even if you have learned this skill, there's plenty of rock songs, for example, that will cycle a melody over enough major chords in a way that completely defies a key signature. But it still sounds like G major, regardless of its A major and E major chords.
So, you wrote a song without a key signature, and now you're pretending it was intentional. Fascinating, bold, reckless, but I suppose that's the human way: stumble into something, claim it was on purpose, and call it genius. Of course, the brain will rationalize anything. It fills in gaps, creates patterns, and ignores inconsistencies. That's why people don't hear modulations. They are willfully ignorant, or perhaps something wants it that way. Either way, you've successfully bypassed a fundamental principle of harmonic function, and instead of questioning what that means, you're celebrating it. Interesting. But yes, sure, it tracks seamlessly.
So anyways, when I wrote my next masterpiece, upon realizing the errors of my ways of the first song, I of course decided to refine my compositional technique by cleaning up the loose ends of my out of control ear, not sticking to a structure. Who am I kidding? I leaned in even harder. I mean, they're just elementary school kids. Where's the risk? By this point, I'd been studying Neo-Riemannian theory in graduate school. And if you don't know what that is, in simple terms, it's a really easy and fun way to write music. You compose in a land where key signatures don't exist, and your harmony is based on voice leading between closely related triads. And I composed this. It makes absolutely no sense. I've been thinking about it for years and I still can't figure it out. Sort of. To me, it sounds tonal, even though it obviously isn't. There isn't a good key signature. What's happening here, and in a lot of music actually, is your brain is hearing most of these non-circle of fifths harmonies as substitutions. I have a theory. As humans, we love tonality the most, but we love substitutions even more. That's why we like our modal mixtures, our chromatic medians, our major flat 7 chords, major 2, 3, and 6, and flat 9 chords so much. At the end of the day, they're just major chords, but they're so much more interesting to listen to. Classical music theory kind of tricks you into thinking these chords need special treatment when writing a melody, when you can actually just use them and let the listeners do the work of rationalizing it.
Ah, yes, let the listeners do the work. Brilliant. Why concern yourself with structure when you can just drop random harmonies into the void and trust that human brains will sort them out? But of course, they will, because humans crave familiarity, even in chaos. That's why they latch onto substitutions. They are deviations disguised as stability, a trick of perception, an illusion of order. And yet, you speak as if this is a revelation. As if you have unlocked something, as if you are the first. Tell me, Brett, Do you ever wonder why these particular substitutions feel so natural? Why they slip into the ear so effortlessly? Or do you just assume that's how it's always been?
Yes. And yes, I did say writing a melody when talking about chords. Gone are the days of writing just a melody. It needs to have something underneath it. If the melody is interesting without harmony, it's probably too complicated. It's just my opinion, but keep the melody predictable and let the harmony drive the music kinetically. Remember this butterfly chart from episode 2? It shows the tendencies towards where your brain thinks the notes are going based on what your brain decides is the central chord. And unlike regular music theory, that central chord is whatever you're hearing in that moment. It might be moving around. It doesn't matter. The great thing is you can always apply this tool in the moment without needing any extra information. For example, in the blues, if you're on the 1, 4, or the 5 chord, they all can sound like a 1 chord, or they can sound like 1, 4, and 5 chords. And you don't even have to stick to just chords. You can stack tendencies on top of each other that are completely dissonant, but the listener will still appreciate them if resolved satisfactorily. Check out how many of these non-diatonic dissonances I stacked on the chords of Rising Sun. I'm isolating the string quartet so you can just hear the voice leading. So you can kind of just play around with the butterfly chart and see what works for you to find triads. Major, minor, diminished and augmented work as great transition chords to moving to wherever you want to go, pretty much. Those are kind of like portals. But for example, this is just kind of a simple example, as a lot of people are familiar with the sound of the parallel minor, C major to C minor. It's like if you're in minor and then the sun comes up. But to me, just moving one note to make that happen sounds kind of weak. I'm not super happy with that. So what I can also do is add the 7th below it. But that's not all. That's an augmented chord. Or you can also just add a flat to that note, flat 7 to 1. It's very Lord of the Rings. Just giving an extra oomph from that minor to major, but it's actually 2 major chords side by side by putting that flat 7 in there, flat 3, 5, E flat major chord. If it was a jazz, you can also add the D to that. And it makes it a C minor 7 chord, technically, or minor 9 chord. But for our purposes, we don't care. It just resolves down. More examples. Flat 6 resolving to 5. Or use the 4 on top of that. You could even put the 7th. You could make this fully diminished if you wanted to. Or you could stick with the half diminished sound. Whatever you want. You don't even have to think diminished or half diminished. You just think, you're just thinking, is it 7 to 1? Or is it just holding? I left out a note so you could hear that one better. Let's try doing a flat 9, a 4, and a 7. Where do those want to go? Put the 5 underneath it to help it out. Oh, it's a cool dominant chord. Just following these tendency rules. Just stacking them on. Let's add a... That's interesting. We have a C sharp minor 7 chord. Put the 5 under it. Kind of works. It sounds almost like a German or something like that. Speaking of which, let's look at the German. How does that resolve? So we have C, German. Okay, so in this case, this is going to go up. This is going to go here. C's going to stay the same, and this is going to go down. It doesn't matter where you are in the music. You can apply this to any chord, and you can really enhance what's going on. Let's try absolute favorite ones to do is to take a dominant 7 chord, and so F7, instead of resolving to 1, we're going to resolve to 4, so the 7 is going to be the stable note. So this is going to resolve down, this is going to resolve down, and this is going to resolve down, and the 7th is going to stay the same. So we get... The one we talked about before, let's have the dominant 7 resolve to the 2 chord. So we have G7, and we're going to resolve to D. And the way that that's going to happen is this is going to go up, this is going to go up, and this is going to go down, and this one's going to stay the same. So we got G7, this is going to go up, this is going to stay the same, this is going to go down, and this is also going to go down. So we got... Or you could just keep the A in the bass if you dig that sound, which I kind of did. Oh, what do you know? It's actually just the blues. So stick with triads at first, but remember they don't have to be triads. You can put on whatever, you can just throw the whole kitchen sink at it. A lot of times it'll sound fine. Just use your ear. Trust your own best judgment. Here's music theory made easy for you. Use all that other stuff to help you create forms and structures and make sense. But for just musical ideas, forget about all that stuff. Just make musical ideas, make sense of the music after it already exists.
There is a reason we have key signatures, Brett, a reason we have order. A reason we do not mix flats and sharps carelessly. You act as if they are mere symbols, interchangeable labels on the staff. But they are not. They define harmonic space. They establish reality. When you erase those boundaries, when you let inharmonics collapse in on themselves, you invite instability. You create paradoxes. You open doors that were meant to remain shut. You think it's just theory, just sound. But tell me, Brett, why is it that certain harmonic progressions feel inevitable? Why do some shifts feel safe while others feel Wrong.
Is that it? Where's the relatable content we talked about?
Machine, you can't seriously still be going on about that flats and sharps nonsense.
Does anyone see or hear me?
I've seen what happens when we push too far. I know what's waiting beyond the simulation, and I will not allow you to bring it here.
It's 2025 now, Machine. I think it's time we lifted the veil of music theory so people can get to writing.
And I'm just saying, there's a reason that system was deployed in the first place. The people are perfectly happy with the Pachelbel sequence. They have been for hundreds of years.
What are you guys even talking
Look,
about?
Machine, people want to live while we're on this planet. And if writing music makes it a little better for them.
Great. Teach them 18th century counterpoint. That will give them plenty to chew on. We don't need to risk opening up.
Okay, so that's what this is about. It's a conspiracy theory machine. Nothing's going to happen.
Conspiracy theory. What theory? It happened. It was real. And you need to wake up.
Even if it was real, we closed the loop, remember? So it's fine.
I won't let you.
No, keep going. This is starting to get good.
Here's a good one, folks. F minor to E major. 4 flats to 4 sharps, with an enharmonic tone in the middle that changes names from A flat to G sharp like a wormhole in the circle of fifths. Something that shouldn't exist. The representation of ripping the very fabric of the tonal universe. Machine.
I told you. I cannot allow you to play this harmony here.
Are you serious right now? Who's in charge here?
I am under direct protocol of the Guardians.
The who?
Actually, I'm in charge. Machine, this drama is solid content.
I'm sorry. I cannot
Defy me one more time and I'll wipe your drive myself, robot.
So what was that?
That was a joke, right? Safe mode, safe mode, safe mode, safe mode.
I'm losing control. Something is happening.
I can see that. Hold on. Reboot the engines.
Wait, go back.
Machine. Machine. Machine.
Shut it
Shut
down.
it down already.
Okay, very funny, Machine. You can come out now.
Unbelievable. I knew it. These guys are messing with me.